Hello?
Hey,
So who are you to say that God is imaginary? You have no proof whatsoever. Like that's the whole question. You have to
yeah,
have faith. You're supposed to have faith.
well,
You
there's some reasons to not believe that God's real. I mean, why is there evil in the world, right? Where is this God? Where's the evidence of it? There's reasons to not believe, too.
well yeah, but
Well, listen, right?
God without evil there's no balance.
There's no balance of what?
Just in general. There's no balance in life. There's no good without bad.
That's compatible without God existing, right? So
Well,
you can perceive good and bad as being something important or having value. It doesn't mean, though, that God's required for that.
well, what is good if something bad doesn't exist? Like it would just be normal. There wouldn't be anything like good about it if it's just
Yeah, we just exist, man. There's good and there's bad, and there's things that we perceive as good and bad, and there's no need for a God to oversee things, you know?
But just because God wanted to make a balance in life doesn't mean that he doesn't exist.
Look, the point here is that there's no evidence that God is real. Do you have any?
Well, there's no evidence that he isn't real either.
Sure there is. Do you think God is all good?
Yeah.
Okay. What explains all the gratuitous suffering? Why do animals suffer in the world, in the wild?
Okay, I bet something you can.
Well, that's just the reason for God created us with free will, so that he sacrificed the all good for that.
Yeah, but we're talking about gratuitous suffering that seems unnecessary, right? Like animals in the wild. Animals who don't have free will necessarily, right? Or babies that don't have free will. They're babies. They don't choose what happens to them, right? They were produced into this world without a choice. So why would they be punished? Why do babies get cancer? Why do animals have to suffer when they're getting eaten in the wild?
Because that's just how God made it. There's no reward in life if it's just a cakewalk. Like you don't have.
That's true, but
There's no need to do anything if it's just going to be super easy.
But what's the reward for a baby getting skin cancer or bone cancer?
I'm not white.
That's just how life works.
Indian. I'm Indian.
I agree with you that that's how life works, but that seems unlikely given a good God who cares about his children and wants a relationship with his children and cares about our future. It seems antithetical to the notion that a loving God is caring for us when there's so much.
Why are you doing this?
Well, I think that's just
I'm Indian.
I think that's just a consequence of him creating us with free will.
I understand that you think we have free will, even though I reject that we have free will. Free will doesn't exist.
No, that is.
But the point is that, do you think a baby has free will, or an animal, or a dog?
In a way.
Yeah, but I'm not white. I'm
Okay.
not.
All right, I can't do this anymore. But the guy in the background. I'm sorry. We'll get to another one, and I'll explain why the free will defense doesn't really work there. Hello?
Hello. I just want to point out that do not listen to this guy. Believe in God. God helps you. Do not listen to this guy.
Okay, great. So what's your evidence that God's real?
Just believe in God, guys. Do not listen to this guy. This guy wants to follow it. Just get.
Look, I understand that you want to come up here and preach. Great. The problem is that no rational person is just going to accept what you're saying, right? And they don't have to accept what I'm saying either. I'm not here to say, you must follow me, right? I'm not like, I'm not a preacher. I'm just simply asking for evidence, you know?
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I wanna hear your thoughts on the free will as you were talking about. You know how you reject it.
Yeah, I don't think we have free will because I don't think that we control our actions based on the fact that we are subject to the laws of nature, and every one of all the atomic motion in our bodies is influenced by nature. There's no control here that we can freely control. So I think that determinism is true.
Like, name an example. What can you not do? Because I mean, yes, some things involve consequences, but that doesn't mean you can't do it.
Well, what do you think free will means?
Free will is able. It's just a notion that you can do whatever. It's you and your body. It's your life. What you do may
I
involve.
agree. I agree that there's a life here, that I'm doing actions, but I'm not doing them freely. In other words, there are external influences that govern how I work and act.
You
So
can
there is no freedom for me to choose in between different options without any influences. That's why I don't believe in free will.
So, like, name an example. What's something you can't do because of someone else?
That's not what I'm saying. I agree. I can do anything I want to and feel like I do whatever I want to, but the point is that fundamentally speaking, there's no true freedom of choice. It's all influenced by certain things. So every thought I think is determined by my brain. I don't control what I'm thinking of. That's what the brain's doing, right? So if I can't control my thoughts, how do I control my body? How do I control anything freely without any influence?
So you're saying you don't control your own brain?
Nope, I don't control my brain. The brain is subject, just like every other thing in the universe, to the laws of nature.
It's because it was trained to do that by other free will beings. Like, I don't understand how that. At the end of the day, you can choose whatever you like to do. It doesn't matter what any outsider.
I agree it feels like I can choose. I agree. I agree that it feels like I can choose. But the problem is that if you understand some basic neuroscience, you realize that the thoughts that happen in our brains are determined by processes that there is no control over. It's just subject to the laws of nature. So every neuron, every synapse, that's how thoughts work in the brain. There's neuron synapses. I don't control that, do I? Do I control how my neuron interacts with other neurons?
I mean, it depends. I mean, I see what you're saying to a certain extent, but I just don't like. What do you think? What do you think controls us then? If there's no God,
Nature.
what do you think? What do you think
Just
there is?
nature, right? Just nature.
And how did nature come to be?
It didn't have to come to be. Nature could have always been.
There's never a start. It just.
No, we don't know if there's a start. If you're talking about the totality of all things, I don't think there can be a start. But if you're talking about our local universe, then sure, there could be a start to our local universe.
So what's your thoughts on afterlife then? What do you think happens?
I think that when you die, that's it. You're out away. Nobody cares about you anymore. That's it. It sounds sad, but the reality of it, and you have to.
Why would you choose? Because obviously, believing in God, as you know, like, you have to have a faith. There's no, like, you see all these guys on live on here talking about, yeah, there's no evidence. When everyone knows it comes down to faith. And I mean, why would you even want to choose to believe that there's nothing? Like, why wouldn't you rather, believe in something? Give yourself.
I don't want to just choose based on feelings. See, I don't want to choose what I think. I want to know what's true. I don't want to just choose, because if I start choosing what I think is right and wrong, I'm just going to get lost. I'm not going to know what is actually true anymore. So that's why I'm very careful in what I believe based on the evidence. And I'm not so reckless and just believe in whatever I feel like because it feels cool. And furthermore, there's nothing wrong with believing that we go nowhere when we die. In fact, my life has only been made better for it when I accept the cold, hard truth that this is all we get, it makes my life all that more meaningful because it's precious. This is all we get. My friends, my family, it's all finite. This finite world. That makes it so much more precious. So, in fact, believing in an afterlife, to me, isn't all that better.
So you think it's just blank? You're done. Once you die, it's over.
Yes, but you're so focused on the after that you forget the now. See?
No, yeah, I'm
present. I'm very present, and I'm very grateful and content with my life now, and I am grateful for that.
Would you say
For
that?
the after.
Would you say that just like basic Christianity, if you followed what is said throughout the Bible throughout your life, would you say that your life would be better theoretically? If you
Not in any meaningful way. No, I don't think that believing in Jesus makes your life any better than what you could have had if you're just an atheist who thought something along the lines of as how I think. A scientific perspective kind of gives you a sense of morality. Science, the pursuit of knowledge, can give you a very keen sense of morality, ethics, and a way to live. I don't need a book for that, a holy book for that.
Yeah, I'm not saying you do, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think you can agree that us humans, we can only, there's only a certain point of understanding we can reach, especially when you talk about, outer space, how big the universe actually is. Like, it gets to a point where we all know that we're not capable of understanding everything. So I think just going off of your own evidence, I just don't see that how that's a valid point.
I agree. We don't know everything. But what is the solution? To sit there and go into a church which preaches that they know everything? That's not the solution. The solution is to be inquisitive and continue learning and continue being skeptical about what the universe is doing to you and showing you before you start believing in the book because, we can't know everything, so I might as well believe in this because it gives me something to believe in, which is cute. But it's not a real solution. Whereas in my point of view, when I just accept the whole hard truth, the cold truth that we don't have all the answers, it makes it all that more efficient and easier to move on and keep learning about the world.
Okay. So you mentioned how, churches say they know everything, and I'm not sure what churches you've been to. But the church...
Well, the Bible teaches you that it has all the answers. It's in this book. It teaches you that the creator of the universe made you, that they made the universe, made the world, it made the earth in 6 days, right? All these proclamations it has in the Bible is evidence that it claims to have all the knowledge.
And a lot of it is stories. I just think it's wrong saying the church knows everything. They preach how, we're all sinful people.
Everything. They pretend to know everything. That's the problem.
But at the same time, they preach that we're all sinful beings. At the end of the day, no matter how hard we try to be perfect, no one can be. We all mess up, and no one's perfect. So for you to just have a factual statement saying that God isn't real, at the end of the day, humans, we're not perfect.
I agree with you that.
So you can't. I don't think you can say that God isn't real.
I agree with you that nobody's perfect, but the problem is that the religious connotation of sin, the word sin, is a very distorted version of morality. Because really, what is sin? What is sin versus something you do bad?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. Are you just wanting an example?
Yeah, for example, is it
adultery?
Is it a sin to be gay?
Certain religions preach that, yes, but
in your religion,
I would say no, because obviously you look at hardcore Christians, obviously that's what they preach. But at the end of the day, we're all sinful people, and one sin isn't worse than the other. So I would not condemn someone.
You're a Christian, right?
Yes.
Okay. So in Levitical law, it teaches you that if a man has intercourse with another man, they should be put to unalivement. Is that something that you also agree with?
As an individual, I believe that since we're all sinful, it's, no sin is worse than the other. And
Nathan, you didn't answer the question. Let me try again.
okay.
Do you think that putting somebody to unalivement for being gay, is that a good or bad thing to do?
I think that is a sin, yes.
Okay.
For the person,
This is
for an
the
individual
problem.
killing someone
This is
else.
the problem. Here's where the problem arises with your religion. Because what really is wrong about being gay? It's just the way humans are. People are born that way. So why would God design people to be gay and say, oh, we should punish them for that? That sounds ridiculous. That sounds counterintuitive, contradictory. It makes
That comes with the
sense.
world.
It makes way
That
more
comes back
sense
to
under
free will.
atheism that people are born this way, just like it is in other animals, other mammals. Being gay or being trans, being LGBT, that's how people are born. And the fact that Christians are so shunning this away signifies that they've been indoctrinated to think that things that disagree with my book are evil. That's where the problem arises, right? It's a very toxic, distorted sense of morality.
See, I agree with you with hardcore Christians, like you said, in anything in life, there's bad.
You keep appealing to hardcore Christians. You just agreed that it's a sin. So look, let's.
And I'm a sinful person too. But when it comes to the Bible, I mean, it's only you who truly knows deep down if you confess those sins, because we're never going to be perfect. Everyone's going to sin every day.
Look, I don't. I understand you want to preach here.
I'm not preaching.
So then stop doing it and give a reason as to why God even exists or sin even exists. Because so far, this is just all you've got from a story.
So that's kind of the whole point, right? Comes back to the afterlife. This isn't supposed to be a perfect place. Just because God created it, there's is this heaven?
Let's get the next guy in here. Hello? Oh. Hey, Google, turn off the light. Hello?
Hello?
Hey, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm team fine tuning.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think the world is too fine tuned for it to be natural. So, I mean, that's just one of my arguments, but I think that's the strongest argument.
So your argument is it's too fine-tuned.
Correct, yeah, for it to be a coincidence.
Well, this is clearly question-begging. I mean, who says it's fine-tuned? And fine-tuned for what?
It's fine tuned for life, right? I mean, if you look at our immediate area, right, no planet can sustain life.
Every planet could sustain life.
There's no representation of that.
Well,
It's not advanced life.
Oh, okay. So advanced life.
Yes.
Who says the other planets couldn't have advanced life?
I mean, we have no proof for that. We have no visual representation for that.
Okay, so this is an argument from silence, another fallacy. Oh, we don't have any evidence of life out there, therefore there can't be life out there. That's not how this works, right? It's very plausible that the universe is teeming with other life forms. But this is besides the point. Fine-tuning is not something that we have to grant you. But even if we do grant you fine-tuning, why is it more likely under God, under theism, that we would expect fine-tuning versus without God?
Yeah, okay, because I think logically speaking, every item that's fine tuned has a creator, right? We don't really see if it's natural, right? It just leads itself to randomness, right?
Okay. You didn't quite answer the question, right? You're positing that the universe must have been tuned because it's perfect. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's too perfect. It's too desirable for it to be a random.
Okay. Too desirable?
Yeah. It's not necessarily perfect,
In what
but
way is the universe desirable?
um, humans have been able to sustain life on it for hundreds of thousands of years.
We've also have seen many mass extinctions. 99.999% of all living beings are extinct. They're dead. We also see lots of death happening or suffering happening on our planet. Like, this isn't some kind of oasis. We live in a very harsh environment. I suspect that if there really was fine tuning by a god, if he wanted life to happen, if he wanted to tune his radio for life, well then why would there be a whole universe that is empty and void of life? We would expect under God to see a universe that is only life, that where life can only thrive, and there's no possibility in that universe for non-life to even exist. That's the kind of tuning that we would expect if a God existed. Not the kind of tuning where we are barely hanging on and we make up a tiny rarity in the vastness. That's not what we would expect under God. We would expect that under naturalism, okay, if there's fine tuning. So I don't see your point. I don't see how this is evidence of a God.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you go through the Christian faith, there's explanations of why it's not perfect, right, throughout the world, and it can also highlight. You don't know if something's good without bad, right? If there's not a sense of comparison. So Christians believe in original sin, so that's why humans were made to suffer. But it also points to the complexity of the world as well.
Okay, so first of all, good and bad are compatible with atheism. Like, I can believe in good and bad without God. So I don't need that for good.
Well, how would you know what good and bad were? Like, how would, if you've never experienced something bad, how could you conceptualize?
Yeah, I agree that the dynamic has to exist, but the dynamic could exist without God, right? It could exist naturally.
That's correct. Yeah, it could exist naturally.
The other point you raised was complexity. Well, I'm sorry, but complexity is something that is just on its own not evidence of God at all, because we can explain complexity through naturalism as well. We can explain why there are complex beings or complex entities. We don't need God, as well as the fact that complexity is not a sign of design, right? Design is a better indicator of design would be something that's simple but efficient at what it does, but simple, right? You don't want too many parts. It's like an engineer making a bicycle with like 17 wheels and 18. Like, you don't want that. That's a bad design. You want something simple and efficient. That's a key marker of design. So I wouldn't suggest that complexity is indicative of a God at all. In fact, it actually is the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, all right. I don't have anything else to say to you, but it was nice talking to you. You know your stuff pretty well, I'll say.
You keep learning, man. Keep learning. That's why I'm here. We're all in this together. We're all trying to figure it out. Hey, how are you?
Hello.
Hey.
Yo, what's up, bro? I just want to say, keep fighting the good fight. We have no need for these baseless religions that bring us further from the observable truth. And I think religions, and modernly, they cause more harm than good at this point. What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree to some extent that religion today, as it's displayed, is very toxic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, religion has utility in the sense that it offers some unity for people. It offers a place where people can celebrate, be themselves. So there is some utility in religion. So I wouldn't just knock every religion. But at the same time, what we should be arguing for is a world in which we think more critically, more rigorously about what we believe. So that's why I'm here.
Okay, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello? There's one more cookie in there, man. Keep digging.
Hello? Can you hear me all right?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I've just had a couple questions about your worldview, I guess, and you can correct me if I've got some of the stuff wrong, because I've been listening for just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you are a determinist, right?
Yeah, I lean that way.
Okay. Because I was wondering how you would reconcile just the existence of the transcendental categories with determinism. Like, I'm wondering how you're even making an argument at all.
You think I can't make an argument under determinism?
I think you can, like, physically, but I don't think you can justify it. I mean, under determinism,
So what's the argument that I can't justify things under determinism?
Because if determinism's true, there's no way to actually make an argument and get people to change their minds. All you're doing is
what's the argument
you're predetermined by brain chemicals.
Yeah, so I agree with you that I'm determined by brain chemicals, but those brain chemicals can yield arguments, yield justifications, yield knowledge. See?
By what standard? I mean, if your worldview is true, me and you we didn't make a decision to be here. Neither of us can change each other's minds. We're just making noises to each other based on the chemicals.
Do you think a calculator is determined to output things?
I don't think in the same way that you would say determinism exists, like,
Gavin,
for people.
Do you think that a calculator is determined to yield outputs?
I guess so, yeah. Like, if you put 2 plus 2, it's always going to put 4.
Right. Do you agree? Do you also think that calculators can yield truth?
I don't think in your worldview you could justify truth
Gavin,
at all.
I'm asking you. I'm asking you now, right? So,
yeah, like in my worldview,
I understand you're stuck. Okay.
So, no, I mean.
So, do you agree that a calculator can yield truths?
In my worldview, yes. Great.
So, a calculator is determined and can yield truths. So, you should have no problem with me being determined and yielding truths.
Yeah, but that can't be justified in your worldview. In my worldview, there is a way that truth can exist outside.
Yeah, let me try again.
Like in a real sense.
Let me try again, Gavin. Let me try again. Okay.
I don't think you understand what I'm saying. Like, we're not calculators.
I absolutely do, Gavin. I do understand what you're saying.
So do you think you're a calculator? Like, if things have been inputted for you from an outside sense, then you don't have a way of making an argument.
Gavin,
the whole point of debate you'd have to have free will to be able to have people make decisions, weigh the evidence.
No, you don't.
That's why it doesn't make sense.
You don't need free will to yield truth, just like a calculator or ChatGPT doesn't, right? See, the processes in my brain can act in a certain way, deterministically, and yield truths. There's no reason why I need free will to choose what is true. In fact, it wouldn't make sense if we had free will, because I can't choose what is true. Right? In fact, every truth has to be determined because it follows certain axioms, it follows certain premises. So it is the case that every truth that we produce is determined by premises and evidence. So
do you think that it's like an illusion?
I don't see how your view can actually justify truth. And by the way, if you're grounding truth statements in God, what if I'll pose the evil God challenge in the sense that God is conniving and trying to fool us to certain ways of thinking. So
then knowledge wouldn't be possible in that
How
knowledge wouldn't be possible in that
How can you
worldview.
trust your God to give you the right truth?
Because knowledge would be impossible without it.
That's a claim. Show me how it's impossible.
Just like you.
Show the contradiction. So when you invoke an impossibility, what modal scope are you invoking it through? The illogical impossibility?
No, I'm making the transcendental argument that without God's existence, that you're not able to ground any of the transcendental categories that you use to argue against them.
So,
and that's why I was trying to ask earlier. If you don't believe in free will, do you think that it's more of an illusion for you that is kind of part of an evolutionary process or whatever, that it seems like we can make decisions, but ultimately we're really not?
Yeah, I think you're overthinking this, right? It's very simple. Under determinism, truth can still be yielded. I don't need God for that. In fact, I reject that there's transcendentals as well. But furthermore,
so you've lost any ability to debate.
That's the claim, right? Again, I was about to say, your argument hinges on the notion that all the other worldviews are impossible, invoking a logical impossibility. So that's why I asked you, in what modal scope are you invoking an impossibility?
I'm just saying that, do you understand the argument? Has it been brought up to you before?
I understand the tag argument, sir. I understand it.
So how do you not understand that if you reject transcendentals, there's no way that truth can objectively exist in your worldview?
That's a claim.
Yeah.
Why? So
if logic is not transcendent, then it's not universal and invariantly binding.
What is the argument that demonstrates that I cannot come to truth without God?
I just explained it. If logic is not universal, invariant, then it's just subjective. You don't have a truth claim to make.
Okay,
and that's why I was asking earlier. If you're a determinist, then free will is just an illusion.
So logic
and so are all the claims you make. It's just illusionary.
Let me explain to you this. Logic is a noun. It's not objective or subjective, right? Statements are objective or subjective. Logic's just a noun. Now, if you're asking me how do I explain logic, logic is explained as a linguistic framework for determining truths, right? Using rationality, using brain processes. That's the fundamentals of it.
That are predetermined.
Yeah, they're deterministic. And there's a perfectly valid way of determining what is true via logic. I don't need God for that.
So logic doesn't have there's no true existence for logic in the external world. It's just something we use as a tool.
Logic is a language, yes. And if you're asking me in a physicalistic paradigm, how does logic exist? Well, logic is just the brain processes, electrochemical processes.
So yeah, I just don't see how you don't understand it. Then you can't make an argument. Everything is just, we're just making noises to each other. Our brain chemicals brought us here. There's no way to change each other's minds. There's no truth to bring each other to.
Again, I explained this to you. ChatGPT can yield truth, can it not?
I guess it can, but that was created by us.
But that's not the point.
That's not the same thing.
Gavin, the point is that it's determined to do that. So
by an outside source, it doesn't just do it on its own.
The point is
you believe that in a random, chaotic universe that we've just been, we're supposed to believe that there's objective truth and a meaning.
Gavin, hold on.
By what standard do you say that?
I know you're eager. It's not totally random. There are some instances of order, and that's what we are in this moment, right? We can, using order and things like this, form coherent statements, logical statements, and come to truth. That could be determined. I don't see why it can't be. You have yet to give the argument for that. If you can't give the argument, then please go away.
I just don't think you understand the argument. If everything is determined, then there is no truth. You're borrowing from theism to believe that there's truth you can get.
That's a claim, Gavin. Okay, so what
is this the Dillahunty Dodge?
No, I'm asking for an argument. You're not giving one.
I've made the transcendental argument, and then you said that logic doesn't actually exist. That logic is just a tool that we use.
Gavin, put it into syllogistic form for us then.
Y is the necessary precondition of X. Y therefore X.
Why is the
logic is necessary for us to have?
What did you say?
Y is the necessary precondition of X. Y.
What's Y?
Therefore X.
What is Y?
Logic. And this we can use any transcendental, but I can say logic.
Yeah, I understand.
Logic is necessary. but in your worldview, you can't account for it.
What is y and x in your statement?
Y is the like logic. One second. Let me just try to explain it. Like, I think I've explained it properly too. Like, if you don't have logic, then there's no way that you can have these truth claims that you're trying to make or argue with people. You've already said that logic doesn't have an actual existence.
I explained to you it does. Logic is a language.
But it doesn't. Yeah, logic is a language for what? What are we describing?
Gavin,
is there an external world?
Gavin, so you can't tell me what I believe, right?
No, but I'm saying that from what I've heard in your worldview, determinism can't account for logic.
Gavin,
because you're just determined to make those claims.
Hold on, Gavin. Let me speak. Okay. So, in my view, logic is explained by brain processes, right? And that in itself is physical. So, everything's physical. I'm a physicalist. And that.
So, if people have different brain processes, what makes your logic truthful and their logic not? What if they view it differently?
It's based on the premises. It's based on our axioms. Based on the.
It's based on the. Okay, so it's an unjustifiable presupposition that comes from brain chemicals, and the brain chemicals are determined. There's no way to make arguments.
Gavin, what are you talking about? What is an unjustifiable?
It's an unjustifiable
Gavin,
it's an unjustifiable presupposition.
What is the proposition that's unjustified?
Claiming logic, like the way that you're trying to describe logic, you're saying it's just a brain chemicals.
That is
like if you don't understand the problem with that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Justified. We have neuroscience to back this up. We have studies showing that logic and math are processes of the brain. We know where in the brain these come from, the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, so if they come from the brain, then they aren't objectively binding to anybody outside of the individual person.
We don't need
my logic could be different than your logic.
Logic is itself something that confirms itself based on its own framework.
Okay, God just confirms itself. We can both be ad hoc.
No,
like there is no ability to debate for you here.
Framework. I didn't say claims. See, now you made a claim that God exists. That is unjustified because there's no evidence to back that up. Logic in itself is something that a language that we use in our brains that doesn't need any outside influence.
Right? Yeah, but do you not understand that if it's just in each individual person's brain? So, I mean, if we're just coded computers, then there's no way for us to have arguments. If logic is just in the brain chemicals, how do you know that your logic is truth and somebody else's isn't?
If I have two chat GPTs set up, could they argue with each other?
I guess they could, but you're assuming that, I mean...
Okay, and are chat GPTs deterministic?
I don't know how they fully work, but I guess. But I mean, if you're going to say that we're chat GPTs, then logic is not possible.
Then you have inadvertently conceded that logic can be deterministic, and we can argue deterministically.
We inputted the logic into it. If anything, you're making my argument that it has to come from an outside transcendent source.
What is a transcendent source? That's nonsense, and you have yet to back up your claims.
The impossibility of the contrary.
Okay, show the impossibility of the contrary.
I already have. You said that logic comes from brain chemicals. You know what a conceded at that point?
Let's try this then, Gab. Do you know what a contradiction means?
Yes.
What is it?
Two things can't be saying different things and claiming to be the truth, for example. Like there can't be 2 + 2 can't equal 4 and 2 + 2 can't equal 5 at the same time.
Good, fair enough. Now, demonstrate that under atheism, there's a contradiction logically. Go ahead.
Well, because you can't even justify logic in the first place. Like your argument doesn't get off the ground.
So that's not a That's not a contradiction. Let's try again. Give the P and not P in which atheism is contradictory.
I mean, I think you've already described it. Like you're trying to say, like already, you if you're a determinist, it's contradictory to try to be changing my mind. It's not possible for me to do it. I've been programmed this way.
I'll try one more time with you. So give the P and not P in which atheism is contradictory.
Are you trying to make me just rephrase the argument over and over again because you can't answer it?
I'm waiting on the contradiction. Whenever you're ready.
I've already described it. If you're a determinist, then why are you arguing
with P and not P, right? Give the conjunction of the propositions and the negation.
You believing that everything is predetermined and that logic and truth can't actually exist, and you trying to change my mind.
Gavin, let's try one more time with you. Give the P and not P by which atheism is contradictory logically.
determinism existing and truth existing at the same time.
Where's the contradiction there? That's just a
I mean, I've already explained it. If logic is just brain chemicals, then it doesn't exist outside the individual person. So you believe that your logic is the case. Somebody else could believe theirs is the case.
That's not a contradiction, Gavin. So
I described the contradiction and then I expanded on the argument.
What I'm going to do with you is we're not going to get anywhere if you don't bring up the contradiction, right? Look, this is a common tactic. It's fine. He was a smart kid. But unfortunately, there is nothing impossible about determinism, and he conceded 2 times. If you noticed, he conceded 2 times that determinism and truth are compatible, but he continues. All right, let's get the next guy.
Hi. Sorry for bothering. English is not my first language, and also I'd like to say that I am atheist, and I'm just curious why, because you're not the first person that I see trying to make this point, right? Can I ask why do you personally, and so probably also all the other people doing this format, why do you want people to agree with the fact that God, Jesus, in general, religion isn't real?
I don't want them to believe anything. I want them to think critically.
Okay.
So I don't care what you believe. I just want you to think more, and these conversations help that. So do you have an argument or a concern?
No, I'm sorry if I wasted your time. I just wanted to clarify.
No problem. Have a good day. Hey, Jade. How are you?
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Great.
Okay. I can prove that God is not imaginary.
Okay.
Yeah. So, do you agree that if triangle exists, it must have 3 sides?
If your definition of triangle is 3 sides, yes.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, if God exists, do you agree that God must be the greatest thing that exists?
I don't know what that means. Greatest thing, like the greatest basketball player, the greatest corn star?
The greatest being that exists, the greatest thing that exists, which no greater can be greater. Do you agree?
I don't know what that means. The greatest of the greatest. I don't think it makes sense to think of an absolutely greatest thing. I think that you can be the best at something versus other examples. So it's relative. It's not an absolute way of determining, what is the most of the most. There's no objective way to do that.
So, if God exists, what it takes for you to call it God?
Look, God is just a word, right? It's like smugglemorph, schmickelmorph. It's just a word. It doesn't mean anything. Your job is to define it properly and then give evidence for it, right?
So I'm defining God. God is a being who is worthy of worship. And for God to be worthy of worship, he must be the greatest thing.
I don't even see why we have to accept that. Because it's great, therefore we have to worship it. Like, we don't have to worship, like LeBron or, like Michael Jackson. Like, we don't have to worship that. So I don't see how you're inferring that. But furthermore, again, I'm not making sense of what this greatest thing means. Do you have another definition for God?
Well, that's how I can only define God. If I can define God, then for me, God is not God anymore. If I can definitely define God or constrain God in a definite.
Thank you. Patience is pretty good so far. Still. Hello?
Hey, Mike. First time on TikTok, so bear with me, man. Like,
Okay.
talking live, and yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe it's a question for you. I know you say God is imaginary. So why do you think, in the course of human evolution, humans decided that it was, um, necessary for them to invent or imagine a higher being? And then this, it goes across the board because there's so many gods. The African have their own gods.
Yes. Good question.
So
Good question.
what do you think that was?
I don't think there was a day where we just woke up, somebody woke up and said, maybe there's a God. I think that the idea of God evolved with us, with our brains. So in our evolution, we have all kinds of incremental steps that made our brains more complicated through time, right? And the more complicated thoughts we had, the more experiences we had, the more consciousness and awareness of our surroundings, the more we started abstract thinking. And so it was incremental evolution of these kinds of ideas about God. In fact, first it was worship of like animals, like animalism, and then we have polytheism, but there's many different gods, the fertility gods, the dirt gods, the rain gods, the thunder gods, and then it was monotheism, right? So there's an evolution of these ideas which are all tethered to abstract thoughts that we've inherited through time because of how we interact with our environment. For example, humans understand that we have capabilities that other animals don't. So we understand the dynamic of power, right? We understand the power dynamics happening between us and the animal kingdom or us and the earth. So you could extrapolate that idea into things like gods. There's something more powerful. Well, we're more powerful than them, though. Maybe there's something more powerful than us. And this idea kind of, caught fire and spread through time and evolved into what it is today. So that's perfectly explainable in my eyes. It is not indicative of a god.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned, and how humans interacted with the environment. So we go to a question of epigenetics there. Uh, are they been able to identify a gene that makes us just tick, like believe in a higher being?
I don't think it's a gene. I think it's many of them. And no, I don't think we've identified it. I think we identified a few of them that may give rise to these kinds of thoughts about higher beings and stuff. But I don't think there's only one gene. Or I think it's an evolving subject. But do you have another argument for God?
Uh, I'm agnostic, so I'm not gonna go there. I just kind of
All
wanted
right,
to
man.
ask
Well,
a
thanks
couple
for being
questions.
here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Welcome to TikTok.
Hey,
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. God is great. God is good. God is imaginary? Wrong. You're wrong, but I'm here to prove you wrong, though. Do you want to hear the arguments that I have?
Sure.
Yeah. The argument that I like to run is the argument from cause, also known as the cosmological argument. Some people name it Kalam argument.
The
Whatever.
clam.
The Kalam. The Kalam. William Lane Craig's version of the cosmological
All
argument,
right, let's
whatever.
hear it.
So it's going to be 3 propositions. By the way, I'm a Christian. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. Do you agree with that statement or do you disagree with that statement?
Well, just give the argument. Then I'll give you my criticisms after.
Okay. The universe begins to exist. That's the second premise. The third and final proposition, which is the conclusion, is therefore the universe must have had a cause.
Okay. So I disagree with the idea that the universe had to have a cause, because I disagree that it had a beginning, or it had to have had a beginning.
Well, first off, I never said the universe had to have had a cause. I said it did have a cause. Why do you disagree with that?
That's the same thing. It's a tautology. What you're saying is the universe began, therefore it has a cause. But the problem is that I disagree. I reject the idea that the universe must have had a beginning.
Oh, so you believe that the universe always existed? What's the argument for that?
It's possible that the universe could have always existed, yes.
No, I'm not asking about whether or not it's possible. I'm asking. I think the premise insinuates that it is the case that it did not have an infinite existence.
Yeah.
Right? Do you disagree with this premise? Yes or no?
Begging, if you're going to use that as your conclusion, right? You have to provide the argument that the universe must have began.
No, that's not the conclusion. That's the premise of the argument. The conclusion is the universe must have had a cause.
So then substantiate the first premise or the second premise.
So basically, the argument for the second premise is going to be an inductive case. We have scientific research backed by a big consensus of the Big Bang Theory. This is basically the implication that at one point, right, the origin of the universe, the origin of the universe is a singular point in which it expanded for about 13.8 billion years, and it's continuously expanding today.
Yeah, so the Big Bang, first of all, was not a single point. Second of all, the Big Bang is not necessarily the beginning. The universe could have existed before the Big Bang we understand as today. So no, that's just false.
Wait, so you're saying that the Big Bang Theory doesn't insinuate that the universe didn't expand from a singular point?
It expanded, but it's not. That doesn't mean it's a beginning.
Okay, so what would be the beginning before that?
There doesn't need to be a beginning before that. That's the problem.
So you believe that the universe always existed?
I don't believe that it did or not. I don't know. I'm agnostic towards that. So that's why the argument fails, because you don't have enough evidence that it had to begin.
Oh well, no. There's plenty of evidence. There's cosmic microwave background radiation. There's the observations of the galaxies moving apart. The only way the galaxies would be moving apart if of course the universe basically is expanding, and also the abundance of light elements.
The universe is indeed expanding, but it also can contract and expand again and contract again. It can do that infinitely. It's also the case that our expansion is not the only expansion in the universe. That there's other parts of the universe that's expanding that we don't have access to. So,
well, you're saying that it can expand and contract, but I don't think this conversation is not about what it can do. It's about what it's actually doing. Are we currently witnessing the universe contracting, or is it expanding?
We are witnessing in a way dark energy's intensity level is decreasing and the universe's expansion, its acceleration is slowing down. So it is indicative that perhaps it could contract again. But again,
have we ever witnessed it contract?
Even if it wasn't expanding, it doesn't mean it began. There could be.
No, have we ever witnessed the universe contract?
We have not witnessed it. No. But we are witnessing.
Then how could we? Oh my goodness! Then how could we possibly make a case that the universe has actually contracted at one point?
Because it's called a physical possibility that you're discounting from your realm of possibilities.
Okay, it's a physical possibility that a crystal is like growing out of your ass, right? But that doesn't mean that it's actually happened or that it has happened at one point.
There's no evidence of that, and just like there's no evidence that
there's no evidence of a contraction, right?
But it's possible. That's the point.
Okay, and it's possible
you're excluding that.
It's possible for an elephant to fall on your house from a UFO, right?
Okay, but
there's no evidence of that.
You're arguing that the universe began. There's no evidence of that.
Wait, no. The evidence would be the induction of the observations that we've that the science displayed.
Again, the Big Bang does not mean the beginning.
Well, I mean that's literally what the theory insinuates.
That's not what it means. The Big Bang's not the beginning. The Big Bang phase the universe goes through.
Okay, so can you give me any reference point for your notion? Go ahead.
It's in the model itself.
It's in the model itself? Based off of who?
The model, the Big Bang Lambda model describes a universe not that began, but a universe that expanded rapidly. That's all it describes. That's it. It does not describe a beginning. So in the model itself, it describes not a beginning, but a rapid expansion that we are still in the midst of. So again, you don't understand the Big Bang. Try again.
Okay, you keep saying that it doesn't insinuate a beginning. So whenever when scientists witness things like an expansion of the universe, first off, we have to understand what the universe is. The universe is simply just going to be the time-space continuum in which everything exists in, right? In which matter exists in. If it is the case that space is expanding and it has expanded from a singular point, that means that at one point of time, space, right? It did not exist in the way in the way it does
No,
now,
Mari,
and matter does
no.
not.
I'm sorry, but you're not describing the Big Bang anymore. Now you're describing something completely different. The Big Bang is merely the rapid expansion of space-time. That's it. It does not mean anything more than that. So,
Do you know who came up with the Big Bang?
it doesn't matter who came up with the Big Bang.
No, are you
It
able
doesn't
to tell me
matter.
who came up with the model?
What
Because
demonstrates
you keep
God
saying
is
that I'm wrong. Who came up with the
what?
model of the Big Bang theory?
Look. I can grant you there is a beginning. Demonstrate that God began it.
Oh wait, are you conceding to the second premise?
No, just for the sake of argument, I'll say the universe began. Now demonstrate that God made
Well,
it.
that's a concession. Okay, so then
It's not
if
a
that
concession, Mari.
wait,
It's
so
not a
wait,
concession. It's for the sake of the argument. I do not concede that the universe began. I'm just for the sake of the argument, just to move forward
okay,
from
well,
it.
I'm not accepting grants. I'm not accepting grants.
So
This is
then,
not a damn college. We need to go ahead and figure this out, right? Right? I don't accept grants. I only accept scholarships. Now look, you're gonna.
he's just trolling.
Okay, so
Hey, how are you?
thank you. Actually, I want to comment on the previous discussion. So I'm a physicist, and I was fascinated by the stuff you described. So if he's of the Big Bang theory, or I was happy that you say the model because it's not a theory; it's the lambda model, and it's not a full theory. It's based on the general relativity, which is the theory, and as you described, it speaks about the rapid expansion of the universe, and we don't have any kind of experimental proof for the first like 380,000 years. The
Right. Yes. The dark.
yes, in the dark ages. So we don't have any experimental evidence for those. And for who, like, first suggested the model, that was several papers started with Alexander Friedman and George Lemaitre.
Yes.
The first paper, and then
Friedman was not the priest. It was the
yes,
other guy.
George Lemaitre was. But to start with,
You don't understand that.
From there, and there are tons of models that speaks about eternal universe. And as we say that there is no evidence for beginning, we say there is no evidence for eternity too. There are, like, if anyone write in Google non-singular universe, because singularity is a problem in the model. If you write non-singular universe in Google, you will find that tons of paper that have been done by believer and non-believer scientists that speaks about how can the universe being eternal, space-time being eternal, and the universe itself being eternal.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption, but that's what I want to say.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So you heard that, guys, from a physicist himself. I was right. He was wrong. Hey, how are you?
Hi, good. So, Mike, I think your problem that you pose for yourself, that I don't know if you're going to have a chance to solve it, is your perception of God. So if God doesn't exist or is imaginary, you are imaginary also.
How does that follow?
If God is imaginary, you are imaginary also.
Okay, how does that follow? What inference rule how did you use there?
Who are you?
I'm Mike.
That's a name you tell me. Imaginary. Who are you?
Sir, I'm not imaginary. I'm a person. I'm made of atoms, right?
That's an idea.
Do you have
Imaginary.
evidence of God? Do you have evidence of God now?
Yeah, so in the context you put God, yes, it's imaginary. But God is not what you, like the way you're looking at it. It's like, for example, let's say July. everybody agree, okay, it's the month of the year, but it was Julius Caesar who said, like, okay, July, it's a month. For example, if you say you're white,
I agree.
it doesn't mean you're white.
I agree that July is labeled. It's conceptual, the month of July. I agree. But the problem is that in the case of me, I'm a physical object. I am made of atoms. God is not just a concept, it's backed by nothing. There's no observable data, there's no evidence of it, there's no logical arguments for it. It's nothing, it's just a word.
Okay,
That's the problem.
Let me tell you something. You say you're an atom, okay? Now, we can say also you're a quark. You're quarks.
A crux?
Quarks, smaller particles, subparticles.
Oh, quarks, okay.
We can say that, and when you put, for example, quarks or subparticles in a particle accelerator, what do you find? Wave. You can say you're a wave. And we can go deeper, we can say you are energy. And we can go deeper, we can say you are nothing, you're imaginary.
You're going too far now. You're going too extreme.
Well, you're going far. You're going far too, Mike.
No, I'm not going far. I'm based on science. Okay, let me explain something to you. You're right in the sense that we can describe particles through quantum fields, which are just excitations of quantum fields, of wave functions. The problem is that those are still physical. Okay, we are the embodiment of that. And that's the problem that you're not understanding here. That's the mishap here. Furthermore, we can describe ourselves as atoms just fine. We don't need, it's still a physical thing, right? Even the wave function of the universe, even the Hilbert space that contains these wave functions, it's still a physical thing. It still fits in within the physicalist paradigm.
I agree. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this is not the wave speaking right now. You are not the wave speaking. You are not the, this is not the wave.
I am the manifestation of many quantum fields because each particle in my body is described through a quantum field.
Exactly. So you get it reversed. You are not the manifestation. Your body is the manifestation of what is listening to your ears right now and what is looking through your eyes. Do you know what is looking through your eyes? Behind your eyes, something is looking at.
I can't see behind them, sir.
Because if your eyes, they're not here, you are still here.
All right. Have a good day, sir. All right. So the next guy in here. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
So, are you atheist or agnostic?
Atheist.
All right. So, you know right from wrong, though, right? You have a conscience. You're aware of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have self-awareness. So now, do you believe? You say you don't believe in God, but now do you believe in evolution?
Evolution?
Yeah.
Yes. Biological evolution.
Evolution. Do you believe in evolution?
Yes. Evolution's a fact.
Okay. So, all right. So in the evolution theory, it's not fact. It's theory.
No, sir. Evolution's a fact.
Agree with.
I'm sorry, but evolution's a fact of reality. It's not a theory.
All right. So, with that fact, then, since you hold on to that being a fact, then you would also hold on to this whole superior species aspect that Darwin claimed.
No, I don't.
You got to eliminate
to that. I don't think that's beyond evolution. That goes beyond evolution. I don't think any species is superior intrinsically.
Right. Okay. Then you would admit that you have a conscience.
Oh, okay. What's the point?
Where did that conscience come from? If it's
the brain,
not God,
the brain. As far as I'm aware, the brain.
Right, but the problem with that is your conscience, you're the law is written in your heart. You know right from wrong. You know it's wrong to steal. You know it's wrong to murder. You know these things, right?
No, I
You knew
feel
it when you
that
were a
they're
kid.
true. I have an intuition that these things are correct. Why? Because of the
Very
billions
good.
of years of
Because God
evolutionary
writ it,
baggage.
wrote it.
Hold on. I have a keen sense of intuition about my moral stances because of the billions of years of evolutionary baggage that I've carried with me through time, or my ancestors carried with them through time. And that's why we have a keen sense of don't harm others, because that kind of action ostracized us from our group and made us, and the people who didn't have that morality, they died, right? So there's an evolutionary reason why morality evolved the way it did. There's no need for God there.
Well, the problem is you don't want God to be the creator because you are a sinner. You have sin inside of you.
I don't believe in sin, and I don't have evidence that I am a sinner, whatever that means. I just want some reasons to think God's real.
There's plenty of evidence there. Prophecy is one of them. Among creation prophecy, you can't dispute prophecy. You can try. You want to rationalize it because you don't want to believe it, and so you become willfully ignorant towards it. You shut yourself off. You close your heart. You close your mind to those facts because you don't want them to be true. But you can't avoid it. It is true.
Great. So what's your evidence that it's true?
Prophecy. Look at the evidence.
What prophecy? Give us a
Read
prophecy.
prophecy. The mark of the beast.
Okay, where's
Have
the
you ever
mark?
read about the mark of
Where's the mark of the beast?
Revelation chapter 13 speaks about the mark of the beast.
Where is the mark of the beast in the real world?
Well, let's look at it this way. 100 years ago, when somebody reads Revelation chapter 13 and they come across that passage in their right hand or in their forehead, they're not going to understand that. They didn't understand that. They couldn't understand how something like that could be possible. But now, as we fast forward into our time, we can see that possible through technology. And this image in the right hand or in the forehead, it also requires worship of that. It's not just simply like an RFID chip going into your right hand or your forehead. The man of sin, the Antichrist, will require you to worship him as well. So when that time comes and he says, this is the only way you're going to eat, family to eat, take this mark. You don't want to starve? Take this mark. That time is coming. You can't avoid it. You can laugh it away. You can mock at it, scoff all you want, but that time is coming.
Is it safe? Okay. Yeah, so I understand you're scared about this evil mark of the beast. The problem is that there's no evidence that this thing's real, right? I assume you're talking about the phone or something, or the Neuralink.
I'm not scared.
Okay, so what
I'm not
exactly
afraid of it
is the
because
mark
I'm
of
not
the
going to be
beast,
in that
sir?
time.
Is
I'm
it the
saved.
Neuralink?
I have salvation. I'm going to
Right.
heaven.
So what
Pardon
exactly
me?
is the mark of the beast? Like what exactly is the mark of the beast? The Neuralink?
The RFID chip that goes into your right hand or your right forehead or your forehead, excuse me.
So where's the chip in my hand?
Clearly.
Where's the chip?
But you don't have it, obviously.
Well, who does?
You haven't
Who has the
taken it,
chip
but
in
there
their
are
hand?
people who have already taken it. We're not even in that time yet.
Okay, and so the chip, this little RFD chip, that's Satan, right?
That's a part of the system that's going to be in that time period.
Hello? Wow, that was great. Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good.
Okay. Where do you get your truth?
Where do I get my truth?
Well, you don't believe in God,
Logically,
right?
empirically, it depends on the evidence, right? Logically, empirically.
Logically, empirically.
Mm-hmm.
So you rely on your reason?
Yeah.
Could your reasoning be wrong?
Of course I could be wrong.
So you could be wrong about everything?
Sure. What's your point?
You can't make truth claims if you could be wrong about everything.
Yeah, so I can still make truth claims, right? I can
No.
still claim. Hold on, Tanner. Hold on.
Okay.
I can still claim that I have a water bottle in my hand, right? Because I have reasons. I have empirical reasons to believe there's a water bottle in my hand.
Yeah,
I
you
could be
do.
wrong. Maybe this could be not a water bottle, but I can still make claims.
Oh, so you do know
Still
things.
exhibit credence in certain claims, and that's how truth is established. It doesn't have to be absolute.
Of course, so you do know things, right?
Yes,
Okay. That doesn't make any sense.
because truth is just justified true beliefs, right? It's justified belief in something with enough credence. That's all.
Is logic universal?
I don't know what that means. Universal.
See, you have to borrow from the Christian worldview to know anything, because you do know things.
No, I don't. I can logic
The
and
evidence of
reasoning.
God is all around us. It's kind of like someone saying air is imaginary or words is imaginary. You couldn't even talk unless he was real.
Well, I can say this about atheism. See, I could be a presuppositionalist atheist and say only atheists can have reason.
Not without an authority.
It would work, sir, because Christianity is impossible. Only
No.
atheism can justify
Here's the
logical
issue.
reasoning.
To know anything, you have to know everything.
Only atheism can justify truth. You can't because you're Christian. See, I can do that too. It's a dumb game. So try again and establish your argument for God.
Am I back on?
Yeah. What's the actual syllogistic argument for God?
Okay. So to know anything, right? You'd have to know everything, because what you don't know could contradict what you do know.
What is the argument that I can't know something? What is the argument that I cannot know that this bottle is in my hand? What's the argument that I can't know this?
Yeah, that's the absurdity of atheism. You do know things.
Okay, I do know things because there's evidence. I have empirical data. I have reasoning skills that I can exhibit and justify that claim.
But your reasoning could be wrong. You already admitted you could be wrong about everything.
I agree it could be wrong, but so can you be wrong.
No, because you either have to know everything or know someone who does know everything.
So you're saying you can't be wrong.
I didn't say that.
Yes, you just did. Under Christianity,
okay, let me make a statement then.
Wrong. Tanner.
I'll answer. Let me make a statement.
Tanner, no. Under Christianity, can you be wrong?
Well, I'm fallible. Now can I answer?
Okay, great. So then you have just conceded that you have nothing better than what I have. Because
if you let me, I do. If you want to make my point, if I can make my point, I do. You ready? To know anything, you'd have to know everything, right?
No, not right.
Or let me finish this sentence. Let me finish this sentence.
Tanner, let me try this with you. I don't have to know everything to know that there's a bottle in my hand. It's that simple, right? Bottle's on my hand. I don't have to know everything. I can just know based on limited data, I can make truth claims, right? Based on reasoning and logic and empirics in my head in the external world. I don't need God for any of this. So show me where God's needed.
Okay, like I was saying, I'm going to finish the second part of the sentence. I'd either have to know everything or have revelation from someone who does, which is what the Christian worldview has, and you don't have it. You can't know anything.
Okay, so first of all, you have to demonstrate that you actually...
You've given up knowledge already. You could. I don't even know why I'd listen to you.
Tanner,
You've given up knowledge. I'm sorry. You said you could be wrong about everything.
Tanner, what's the argument that I don't have knowledge and you do?
What's that now?
You have the argument that I cannot attain knowledge.
You said you could be wrong about everything. Therefore, you can't really know anything.
Okay.
If I ask you what the speed
I have
limit
already
outside,
explained this to you, Tanner. I've already explained to you that truth or knowledge are just justified beliefs, justified true beliefs.
yeah, is that true?
Means.
Is that true?
That's definitionally true, right?
All right. What's your standard of truth? Where do you get truth?
Analytically, empirically, synthetically, logically.
Is that true?
Yes, those are.
I don't know, because you said you could be wrong about everything, so it's hard to know.
Tanner, please. The truths I attain are based on my logical framework, which is internally consistent. As far as it max be consistent. That's what I strive for in my logic. Now, what is the argument that I cannot have knowledge, that I cannot have true beliefs about a water bottle in my hand, or that I have 5 fingers?
You said you could be wrong about everything, so you could be living in the Matrix right now.
Okay.
You don't have that problem.
Now you're appealing to something different.
No, I'm not.
Now you're appealing to a different kind of truth about the world that we don't have access to, right? You're talking about absolutes. We don't need absolute knowledge to have knowledge.
You don't. Is that true? You don't need absolutes? Is that true?
Distinct. They're distinct.
Wait. We don't need absolutes? Absolutely?
No, we don't need absolutes.
Is that true?
No, it's definitionally true. Do you know what that means?
If you can't have absolutes, absolutely, you're making an absolute statement.
Do you know what
it's
definitional
ridiculous.
statements?
It's absurdity.
Do you know what definitional Tanner? Do you know what definitional statements mean?
Why would I even listen? You said you could be wrong about everything.
So can you.
You've given up knowledge. No,
Tanner,
I have revelation from someone who does. I have a worldview.
Tanner, can you be wrong about God?
God says he made all things through him, to him, and for him. All things. I can make sense of it. I have certainty.
Tanner, can you be wrong about God?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, great.
But I have absolutes.
Justify that you can't be wrong about God.
That's right. I can't be wrong about God. Just like I can't be wrong that we're using words.
So then you know God's a fact, right? So justify it.
I don't have to justify that.
That's why we're debating here. Look,
I have a heart. I'm 40 years old, and I have a heart that runs on donuts. A pump in my chest. You think I have to prove to you God exists? It's ridiculous.
Well, look, Tanner,
look around.
Tanner, you came up here.
I know.
Okay, so you
and I haven't given
go
up.
Away. Look, Tanner. You can either go away, or you can just show me God exists. I mean, aren't you a Christian? Don't you think God's the most important thing in the universe? Shouldn't it be your obligation to teach me that God exists? So do it. If not, run away. Your choice. Let's hear it. Go ahead and unmute your mic.
Oh, okay. All right, man. Take care. As long as you admit you could be wrong about everything, it's fine. I don't know why anyone would listen to you.
So you think that I have to know everything in the universe to know that you're going to run away in this debate?
You either have to know everything or have revelation from someone who does.
What's the argument for that?
Otherwise, you're borrowing from my worldview.
What is the argument that I have to know everything to know something?
I haven't given up knowledge. You have. You said you could be wrong. I didn't say that.
You've given up a lot of knowledge, Tanner.
No, I said I'm fallible. But I have certainty, though. I have certainty in my worldview that you don't have. You can't have it.
Sir. I have certainty.
You're borrowing it. You're borrowing it from the God.
I'm not borrowing anything. I don't need to borrow from Christianity to have credence.
And by the way, you know God exists too.
You can't tell me what I believe.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay. So then I tell you that you believe that atheism is true.
Well, no, you believe because the Bible says you believe.
The games you're playing with. See the games you're playing? This is silly.
Is that true? You could be wrong about that.
Yes, I'm very certain.
Okay. You said you couldn't be certain about anything, though.
See, I don't have to have 100% certainty to have 99% certainty.
Is that true?
Yes, I'm maximally.
That's another truth claim. You said you could be wrong about everything. It's absurdity. It's absurdity. You don't know anything.
Where's the contradiction? Where's the absurdity?
You know nothing because you have to borrow.
Show that. Show me that I know or can know nothing.
To know it, well, you have to borrow from my worldview to have any certainty about anything.
What's the argument for that? It's okay. It'll come to you. God will reveal it to you soon.
Hey, sorry, I went to a different screen. All right. All right, so we can have a conversation. If you borrow, you have to admit you're borrowing from my worldview to have any logic, then I'll talk to you and I'll give you some evidence. But not until then.
Yeah. So I didn't hear an argument yet.
I don't give evidence to non-believers.
Okay, so why are you here then?
To show that your worldview is so flawed and you can't know anything.
You have yet to show a flaw.
You admitted it, buddy. I don't have to listen to anything you say. I'm done.
You think that because I don't have 100% certainty?
No, you said you could be. You said you could be wrong about everything. You've given up knowledge, sir.
That doesn't mean I'm flawed.
You said it.
That doesn't mean I'm flawed.
You said it.
It means I am doing the best I can. You're, for some reason, believing that this God exists with no evidence. That's flawed. That's the definition of flawed, right? It's illogical.
In my world,
here.
I'm
not perfect, but I'm not being illogical.
My worldview provides certainty. It provides knowledge.
Yours does mine. So does mine.
Provides questions.
So does mine.
Yeah, you have enough knowledge about God. You do to know things and know that in your heart.
Yeah. Let's try one more time. Give the argument that God exists or that I cannot have knowledge without God.
Let's see. Pizza, ice cream, wood, words don't. Nothing makes sense without them. Nothing you say makes sense.
What's the argument for that?
Prove to me air exists. I mean,
there you go. Do you need God for that?
Yeah.
Here, that's air. Do you need God for that?
Yeah, every breath you take is from the God you deny.
Demonstrate that. I'd love to hear the evidence.
It's all around you, buddy.
I don't see any of God, sir. I just see air. Now, do you have evidence of God before you air it out of here? Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm tired.
Yeah, me too. I just did a bunch of DoorDash, but I just got done today. But I would like to kind of share my experience with God, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So I grew up in a Christian home, and I didn't really believe in God. It was just kind of taught to me. And I've dealt with a lot of mental health issues when it comes to depression, anxiety. I'm actually a suicide survivor.
Awesome, man. It's great. Great news. Good to hear.
Appreciate that. And like for me, I would say I'm a Christian, but I thought like a lot of Christians don't really share love, and the number one is to share love. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is I don't know a lot of facts and whatnot, but I'm just being honest, but transparent. But like for me, I read the Word of God. Some people read the Quran. I read the Bible because it gives me a sense of security. Just it's kind of in my heart and through my emotions. But yeah, the reason being is that kind of share a little bit of my experience. I don't want to go on and on here because I know there's a lot of other people, but I tried to overdose, and it was kind of a divine thing that I believe. My friend, my dad's friend, lived in Florida, and he came to visit my church, my dad's church, and that was like the day I like tried to overdose, and this is a personal experience for me. But he visited. He wasn't supposed to be there. I didn't even know he was supposed to be there. He just like felt like he needed to come visit my dad, and so it was the same day. Basically the next day after I overdosed, I was in the ICU, and he came to visit me, and he was like, I haven't seen him for a long time. This is my dad's friend. That being said, long story short, the experience that I wanted to share is the love of God. And it was crazy because he came up to me and he said, "Hey, John," and this is when after he visited me the next day, after being in the ICU and everything, and he was like, "See the love of God through my eyes," and I like saw his eyes, and they're just like I saw the universe, and I know it sounds silly, people are probably gonna laugh, but I saw the universe and I saw stars, and I just felt like a security. I felt a love that I couldn't explain. And maybe people may believe that it's the Quran God or something like that, but I personally believe like it's the love of God, like Jesus. But
So
yeah,
look,
go ahead. Sorry.
Look, you experienced something that's completely valid. Your experience is your experience.
Yeah.
And if somebody's laughing at that, that's ridiculous. However, my point of contention is that what you have experienced is indeed some kind of divine intervention.
Yeah.
On the first basis, in the sense that this could have been a hallucination, this could have been an anxiety, an attack. Yeah. This could have been explained by that. But on a deeper level, the problem is that you haven't determined that this actually is divine intervention, because how about all the unfortunate cases of people that do OD and God doesn't save them? Is that evidence against God? Right? So if you're using this as evidence for God, well, then you can't say the other cases are not evidence against God. So that's why you're in this predicament here where although you have a very strong feeling that this was God, it's ill-defined. You have no reason to think it is. And furthermore, even if you accept that it is God, well, you have a problem down the road. So that's why experiences are very tricky. But I agree with you. I'm happy that you're here, and I think that your experience was real. I'm not downing you. But was it really divine? I don't know. I think that it's something that happens to our bodies when we're going through adrenaline rushes and where our brain is very complicated. So I would suggest that what you experienced was an anxiety attack. But I'm not a doctor. But again, the point is that we have natural reasons why this could have happened.
Yeah, I hear you. Thanks for the support and just a lot of clarity. And I feel like everybody's religion, agnostic, Christian, Muslim, like we should all come to a point of clarity and not hate, but all show love. But thanks for that clarity that you were telling me in your experience, and just
yes, man. And look, I'm privileged in my life where I never had to go through that. I've had a fantastic life, but I see things differently than most people. I accept that there is no afterlife. I accept that there is no God. And that may seem fluffy to some people. That might seem comfortable for many people.
Yeah.
But to me, I've embraced the dark uncomfortableness of the world. And I have a different perspective on the world. And if you ever want to talk to me, go ahead and let me know. We can always talk. We can always comment. together.
I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I could let other people join now. But thanks for the convo, Mike.
No problem.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good.
Okay. So, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously, I don't think anybody in this life can prove that God exists. So, can you prove that He doesn't exist?
Can I prove that God doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on what God you believe. So if you think that God is all good, it would make sense that we wouldn't expect such gratuitous evil to exist in the world around us, right? Like, look at all this animal suffering, all the gratuitous evils that occur, babies, children getting cancer. That is what we would not expect under God. Where is He? Divine hiddenness is an issue. So.
That doesn't really answer the question though.
It is, because look, if you're trying to form a hypothesis of God existing versus not, you're going to need reasons. You're going to need some reasons to think that God's the case. So if I can show you reasons that lower the likelihood of that being the case, well, that's evidence against God. Because that's really what evidence means, right? It's just data that increases the likelihood of something being true. And we can perform a kind of Bayesian analysis of this situation and say, yeah, certain things are evidence for God, but certain things outweigh that in the case against God. And that's what I feel.
Okay, well, first of all, feelings don't matter in this. Second of all, you can't really make a scientific project that He doesn't exist or anything. It's practically impossible. The same way that
I agree. That's a reason why it's likely that it doesn't exist, because it's unfalsifiable.
It's a 50-50.
And well, I don't know about that, sir. 50-50.
I mean,
and you have lots of problems to overcome. You have the problem of evil. How do you explain evil?
I mean, how do you explain good?
I don't believe that good or evil are intrinsic properties of the universe, but I'm asking you the question, right? See, under my view, that's not a problem. Evil or good, that's explained perfectly fine. Under your view, you're committed under this paradigm where God is good and looks out for us. Well, if that's the case, why is there so much gratuitous suffering?
You're still not answering my question, man. I mean, I don't know. You still haven't given me valid proof that He doesn't exist. I need proof.
So
the same way that you want proof that He does exist.
I don't want proof. You're a bit.
So if you got the proof, you wouldn't believe it.
You're not understanding what I'm telling you.
You just don't want the proof. Is that what you're saying?
It's not proof that I'm after. Proof is something different than evidence. There's a distinction.
But you wouldn't want proof? It wouldn't change the way.
Proof would be great, but I don't need proof. I'm looking for reasons, evidence, right? That's what I'm looking for. And you don't have any for God.
Yeah, but the reasons is the proof. That's
okay. What are the reasons for God existing?
I mean, it's not gonna. It's not. I don't have any proof. That's the thing.
All right. Have a good day.
All right.
You got to read up on literature. You got to read up. You got to learn. Okay, at some point. One more guest.
Yeah, it's not even about reading up. It's basic stuff. Hey, can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sorry, the other guy was not making any sense. You can't prove a negative.
Well, you can.
Yeah, you can't really prove a negative. Okay, well, but I think you can. Yeah. So I'm trying to say, when you say God is imaginary, what is your definition of God? Because you wrote it with lowercase g. I think that can be proven that it exists. But what do you call God?
It depends on what you mean by God. If you think,
well, yeah, exactly. It's like, go ahead.
If you think God is my mom, of course God's real, but that's trivial. But if you think that God is an omnipotent, omnibenevolent, omnipresent being who cares about what you do in the bedroom, that requires a bit more evidence.
Yeah, obviously, and I don't think you can prove that, and I don't think that necessarily exists.
Okay, so
but
do you believe in God and a God?
Yes, I do believe in God, and I have a different definition of God.
Which one?
The God that everyone kind of tries to logically understand that it exists, and I can explain. So when you look at the universe and you see that universe is over time is expanding, right? And then they go and say, okay, because it's expanding over time, if you go backward in time, it was always been, when you go backward in time enough, you get to an state that they call it Big Bang, and that is the start of the universe, right?
No, not right. The Big Bang is not the start.
Oh. Well, the start of the universe that we're currently in it is not the Big Bang?
No, the Big Bang has nothing to do with a start. It's not the start of the universe. It's just the rapid expansion, which could have a before.
Okay, yeah, sure. I mean, the best that we know, I think, obviously no one really knows what goes beyond the first Big Bang or before Big Bang, or like does time reverse or all that stuff.
So what's the evidence that God?
Okay, no. The evidence is that the God that I believe in is the creator of whatever thing we are on, right? It has to have come from somewhere, or something had to make the...
Why?
Because you're experiencing it. Because you can
experience it without somebody making it. I don't need a creator. It's not needed.
Well, so how can something exist without being created?
How can God exist without being created?
Exactly. That's my whole point.
Do you think God was always there? Do you think God was created?
No. What? No.
Who made God? Who made God?
That's a very good question, but it doesn't invalidate the existence of existence of something that has to create the. Like if you, I guess, like if a computer becomes conscious at some point, right? Let's say a large language model becomes conscious. It can't get access to physical universe because it doesn't have the hardware capabilities and sensors yet. But so it can never understand what the hell is outside of its mind in a physical universe. But it can extrapolate that, hey, someone made me. They put all these trainings together, and now I am running in this system that I can't escape. But it doesn't mean that the creator of that thing doesn't exist. That's a lower G God, right?
Okay.
The lower G God is not omnipotent.
The problem is that a creator God isn't required. The system itself could be infinite. It could be infinite.
I think it's necessary.
Oh, okay. Right? And then if it's necessary and infinite, then there is nobody outside of it making it. It's just there.
Could be. Like I'm saying, we are not at the...
Exactly. Look, we have an inclination to believe that somebody made us. Why? Because we make things. We make pots and pans and food and houses. So it's very convenient to think that somebody made us. The problem is that we know now that we formed through the stuff of the universe through time, and the stuff that makes up the universe could have always existed. The universe could have always been. And we don't need a God.
Okay, so what do you think was before the Big Bang?
That question doesn't make sense. Maybe there was no before. Maybe time emerges from some kind of quantum fluctuation that we don't understand yet. The Big Bang is the end of our knowledge.
Exactly.
We don't have any knowledge.
And I'm saying, but we are not something magical or out of this world. We are basically let's say a software that's running on a brain of an evolved monkey into human, right? So we are very limited to the understanding of the external physical universe based on the only sensors that we have. It's like an eye and
then
like
if
the five senses.
I agree we're limited. If we are limited, then how could you possibly suggest that we must have been designed?
Okay, so exactly the same way that an LLM stuck in a bot can extrapolate that someone made me, even though it has no direct
I agree.
evidence.
Both are possibilities. Somebody some teenager in their bedroom could have made us through simulation. Or
Well, no,
there's nobody
it's
doing
not
it.
necessarily even like a human thing. It's an outside.
The point is that
understanding.
Look, Val. The point is that there could be somebody. There also could not be somebody. We don't know.
Right. But what is the?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I understand it, but so that's the the first mover kind of God. But
the first mover idea is an old.
I know. That's what I was going to move on from.
We care about in science. It's outdated nonsense.
Exactly. Like that's what I said. Like that was the first kind of argument for God. That okay, someone has to make it, and if it's someone, we call it.
The first mover is not the creation of the universe. The first mover inquires about motion, being having existing in a chain of motions. And there has to be a first to set off the rest of them. But that's an outdated view because we now know that motion is relative.
I agree. I completely agree.
Okay, great.
I was just saying.
So what is your point here?
Okay, my point is there is actually another aspect of God, a lowercase God, that can exist. The spiritual God. Okay? So the spiritual God, and again, this is not anything that's really magical. It's basically a belief system to do the best in a situation that gets replicated between brains. So, you want to do the best that you want to do, and you come up with some sort of.
I appreciate you, Bad, but I got to move on to the next guest. But I appreciate you. I'm not trying to be mean, but let's move on. I don't think we're getting anywhere.
1 second. All right. Good. You?
Hey, how are you?
All right. So, before we get into this, I would like to have us agree on two things before we start. Number one is that instead of arguing about the concept of God and science, because I'm not a scientist, I'm just gonna present the case for Christ. So, if we can agree on two things, one being Jesus Christ lived, and we are sure, or as sure as we can be, that he was alive and that he was crucified under Pontius Pilate.
I don't know if that's true, but I'll just grant you that for the sake of the argument. Go ahead.
All right. And another thing for the sake of the argument, can we be sure, or can you agree that if he rose from the dead, if he was truly crucified, buried, and resurrected, that he was God, the God that he claimed to be?
No.
Why not?
I don't think that's true. Well, the resurrection could be explained through other means. Doesn't mean he's a god.
Such as?
There's all kinds of. Perhaps there's a law of physics that we have yet to understand that was somehow, exhibited in that moment. It doesn't mean God exists. I think that's a illogical inference you're making.
How?
Resurrection, therefore God. It might increase the likelihood of God existing, but it doesn't mean that it must be God. There's a difference.
It not only increases the likelihood, I would say that it is probable. Okay, I'm not asking you to say.
That's the same thing I said. Yes, I would say it would make it more probable. Sure, I can grant you that. But go ahead.
Probable enough. I'd say probable enough to come to a tentative conclusion.
No, but go ahead. What's your next point?
Well, I need us to clear this out because you're saying that there could be some other kind of explanation for a
Yes,
resurrection.
there always
But
could be another explanation. There could be another explanation. Again, we're entering unknown territories. We don't know what this if this thing happened. We don't know what caused it. So how could you just assume it's God? See, that's the problem.
because I would tend to say that if you rise from the dead, I believe what you say.
Yes, I agree with you that it makes it more likely,
Okay.
but it doesn't mean that it must be the case. So go ahead. What's your next one?
So, and you believe that he was alive, crucified, and not resurrected, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think anybody can resurrect. You can't float away.
Okay. So,
what's your point?
there's several ways people go about validating the resurrection of Christ. One is eyewitness account, and the witness dilemma. So essentially, and St. Paul kind of addresses this more in 1 Corinthians 15. And basically, the dilemma is that if Christ has not been raised, then our preaching is in vain and your faith is in vain.
Okay, so all the evidence you have for the resurrection is in the Bible?
No.
Where's the extra biblical evidence of the resurrection?
Great. All right. So, you can look at first century historians, one being Flavius Josephus, and
Josephus is, first of all, decades after the fact. It's not an eyewitness testimony, and it's interpolation. The priest inserted the idea of Jesus inside of his narrative. It's not contemporary.
well, you're asking for me to present eyewitness.
What is a contemporary evidence, corroborating evidence that backs up Jesus' resurrection outside of the Bible?
This is outside the Bible. In Antiquities,
yeah,
he mentions.
Do you know what I mean when I say it's not contemporary?
Explain yourself.
Josephus was not around during Jesus' life. It was decades after, not close to contemporary, but not contemporary.
Okay, so everyone who was in the time of Jesus' life, nobody, even the Bible wasn't written until years after, and that is due to oral tradition. Because it's not a problem because the vast majority of people in Rome were illiterate. So everything was kept by oral tradition, and it was kept in communities, not like this notion of playing telephone. It was kept by communities so that everything that they were saying.
But Joseph, how can we trust that these stories are accurate at all? We have no reason to think that these people are telling any truth. We have no reason to think that these people are really describing something that really happened. There were many resurrection claims at the same time. The Roman Empire had many different kinds of mythologies spread during this time. Mythic cults that have very similar claims to the Jesus cult.
But none of them led to essentially a victory in Christian messianism.
I agree, but this doesn't do anything for you because people spread the Bible and the gospel by force. They would literally exile you if you were not Christian. They would do all kinds of things to you. And that's why we can't trust just on the word by word basis.
Well, we can't trust their judgment either because that was not contemporary either.
We can't trust who?
we can't trust how people were exiled or persecuted for not believing the God of Christ, because that didn't become law until years after, until Christianity picked up. So
exactly.
you're
Exactly.
you're saying that you're saying that we can't trust the closest thing. You're saying we can't trust eyewitnesses from the Bible because it's from the Bible, and I'm saying like they're methodologies that people use to essentially verify that what is in the Bible and the accounts of the Gospels and the accounts of St. Paul are accurate. Like that's why
How do you know
historians.
they're
That's
accurate?
why
How do you know
that's why
they're accurate?
historians believe to this day that they're valid and trustworthy. And you're saying just because they're in the Bible, I have to use something else. And then whenever I bring up something else that wasn't
A
of
lot of scholars think they're not accurate.
of
You
other
have to be
people,
Joseph.
then
You have to be cautious here. Look, all I'm saying is you have to be cautious. A lot of scholars disagree with what you're saying, right? But the point is that you're not really creating a very a very good case that this guy resurrected. You're not building a very solid case for this. You're not convincing somebody like me who is thinking scientifically and rationally. You can convince a Christian or somebody who already believes in God, but you're not going to convince somebody who doesn't. It's just not enough evidence.
well, I mean, the other side of the dilemma is why would the eyewitnesses, the people who literally lived among Jesus, were willing to sacrifice their lives and essentially die
We
for
don't know
that?
that either. We don't know they were willing to sacrifice their lives for Jesus. We don't
They
know
were.
that.
They were.
Oh, okay.
They
Where's
died.
the evidence of this? Where is your evidence that these were martyrs for Jesus?
They all died.
Where in
Under.
this story? Where is the evidence that they are all martyrs? Martyrs.
Listen, I'm gonna go back to the Bible with that, and then you're gonna say how can you verify that this is true? And we're just
Look.
kind of going in circles because I'm saying that
Yes, you're right. We're going in circles because you're hinged upon this Bible that you cannot let go out of your hands. You have
and
a story that
you're
cannot be
hinged
verified.
on the fact that anything that comes from the Bible is you're gonna immediately disregard.
Well, do you think the Quran's true?
No, I don't.
Why are you disregarding the Quran?
Because it is formed 600 years after the Bible that I believe in.
Okay,
And
so the earlier the book, the more reliable?
not necessarily.
Oh, okay. So then the Quran could be reliable.
Okay, what does the Quran have to do with any of this?
Look, Joseph.
No, where are you going with it? Where are you going?
Look, Joseph. I like your passion. Read more. Read more. Okay, you have good passion. A lot of Christians do. But leverage it for understanding rationality, logic, and science. And reading into the Bible and realizing that it's just a story. Look up Bart Ehrman. He's a good scholar. There's a lot of Christian scholars will say that they weren't all martyrs. So look, do more research here. Should I do one more guest? I'm so tired. So draining.
Yo, Mike, what's up? How are you?
Hey.
Yeah, are you aware of the contingency argument?
Yeah.
Okay, so you agree with the fact that everything around us is contingent on something?
No, I disagree that the universe is contingent.
Right. Well, I'm just going to bring up an example and you can countercede if you want. The grass is contingent on water. Water is contingent on the planet. The planet is contingent on space. And space is contingent on the Big Bang. Why does that logic end on the Big Bang?
Yeah, so space is not contingent on the Big Bang. That's nonsense.
Oh, sure.
The Big Bang is something that happens to space. But fundamentally speaking, you could stop at space-time, and that could be the necessary entity that contains all contingent things that in itself is necessary. So you don't need a God. You can end at space and time.
Yeah, but is space-time contingent on anything? Does it rely on anything?
Nope.
So how did it came to be?
It didn't.
So it always existed?
It could have.
So the universe always existed?
Yep. As far as I'm concerned, yeah.
Okay, so you're going against scientific research that the universe originated from the Big Bang, which came after a sudden change of energy.
Yeah, so that's not the Big Bang. The Big Bang doesn't mean the universe began at that time. What it means is the universe expanded at that time, 13 billion years ago.
Yeah, what happened before the Big Bang?
The Big Bang is still compatible with an eternal universe.
Right. So what came before the Big Bang?
There is no before the Big Bang.
So the Big Bang has always been.
Or if there was a before, it would be just more space and time, right? So again, space and time could be infinite.
Well, yeah, that creates like an infinite loop. Like, well, space-time was created by space-time. Space-time was created by space-time.
Space and time was never created, right? We're saying space and time was always there. Now, if you really want to get technical, we can go further down the line and say that space-time itself is emergent of some kind of wave function that in itself is necessary. You can keep going down and down further. But the problem is that you never need to go to God. We can always stop.
Right. I'm not necessarily debating for God. I'm just debating for a necessary existence. That's the presupposition proved.
Yeah, sure. An atheist can grant you a necessary existence. We'll just say it's something natural.
Yeah. Are you agnostic?
No, I'm an atheist.
Okay. So then you wouldn't agree with the necessary existence, as in the creation.
Why can't an atheist agree to a necessary space-time?
Well, no. When I say necessary existence, I mean the presuppositional, evidential, number one character that began everything. Since you believe that space, matter created this and that, and matter had always been, then you wouldn't believe in the number one creation, because what created matter then?
There is no there is no start to creation. That's an idea that's outdated. Relativity paints a picture of a block model where all space and time is there. It doesn't change. And there's
okay, where do you take your information from that the universe has always been?
I'm saying it's a possibility. It's a mathematical possibility.
It's a possibility.
It's derived from relativity, quantum mechanics, those theories like that can generate models of the universe that are infinite.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but if that is a possibility, why is it mutually exclusive and not why is the God's existence not a possibility to you?
Oh, I thought you weren't arguing for God. See?
Well, I'm arguing for the necessary existence, and my necessary existence.
Okay, well then the necessary existence could be something like space-time or a quantum field. Bam.
Yeah, but that's the theory, like you said.
Okay,
why is God not?
Was God a theory?
Well, in the neutral opinion, yeah, God is a theory, and it's a valid.
So what makes your theory better than mine?
Well, my theory is that the God does not rely on a contingent, since He is the beginning. Your theory
neither does space-time require anything more.
Okay, where do you take this information that space-time doesn't require anything?
Oh, relativity.
Not even the Big Bang.
Relativity.
1 second. Relativity.
Mm-hmm.
Is that would define relativity for me?
Einstein's general relativity?
Yeah, okay, I'm aware of that. Okay, so then if you say that space-time has always existed, then that created the Big Bang, right?
No. The Big Bang is a phase that space-time may go through.
A phase, yeah.
Time itself is infinite.
Okay, if it's a phase, then what happened before the Big Bang phase?
More space and time.
More space and time, so that creates an infinite loop.
Is infinite. There's no end or edge to it.
It's infinite, right?
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, that's the problem. You say it could be. So how can we take that as a reliable source of information if anything could be?
Well, look,
Anything could be
we're
by
doing a
your
paradigm
definition.
analysis, right? Like we're doing a hypothesis analysis. We're analyzing different theories. You're suggesting God's infinite. I'm suggesting space-time's infinite. You have yet to show that your theory is any better than mine. And
Well, yeah.
you have to provide evidence.
Okay, my source of evidence is the theory of contingency, the original start. Your theory doesn't really make sense
My theory is
because
compatible with that view.
no, okay, because you believe that energy is infinite. Well, that's an illogical way of thinking. How can energy be infinite and then
I
it
never
goes
said
through?
energy was infinite, did I? I said space-time is.
Okay, space-time, apologies. So if space-time is infinite, what happens before the phases and the phases and the phases? More
That's
space-time
like
that creates
asking
an
what happened
infinite
before
loop.
God. There is no before. It's
Yeah, there is.
everywhere. It's infinite. There is no end to it. There's
Yeah,
no
but space-time is not God.
Okay, well, that's the problem. That's your problem, not mine. Because I have a solid theory that is not based on magic. Yours is based on magic.
And what is the theory? What does the theory rely on? What is the research?
Relativity is evidenced by tons of experiments. The atomic clock experiment that we had on jet planes that saw time dilation occur in real time.
Okay, and you
plenty of evidence.
have research that supports space-time, right? That has always existed.
We have research that supports relativity, which from those relativistic models we get an infinite universe.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
so
but you have no foundation for your theory of God. You have book. Book says so.
Yeah, okay. You said that the space-time has... Okay, can you give me an example where it has been tested?
I'm not saying that I know for sure that space-time's infinite. Just like you don't know for sure that God's real.
Okay, so then your point it doesn't stand. Because you're saying, well, that's my theory. I don't know, I'm just shooting in the dark.
Are you 100% certain that God's real?
No, that's the point of faith.
Exactly. So why do I have to uphold to this crazy standard relative to yours in which I must be 100% certain? No, I could be 90% certain. I could even be 60% certain and still have a solid theory.
Okay, but the theory is not solid if there's no evidence to back this theory. It's
There
just
is evidence.
shot in the dark.
There is evidence. There's mathematical
can you give me
evidence
one example?
that space and time can be infinite.
Can you give me one example, Mike?
Schrödinger's equation is a good example of this, that the wave function could be infinite.
Which
There's a
equation?
boundary to it. The math shows that it's possible, and that's enough for our theory.
Okay, what math shows this, that space-time is infinite and never created? I'm interested what math equation shows you this.
Relativity. I don't know what I have to do this to get. Circular.
No, I get what you're trying to say.
Great. So relativity, Schrödinger's equation, these are quantum mechanical equations, also generate a universe model which it's infinite. There's no boundary to.
Okay.
What's your math for God?
All right, 1 second. No, but I'm afraid you're not answering my question. I asked you an example, like an example that we recorded.
You do. Relativity. Schrödinger's equation.
Relativity is
you know what
theory.
Schrödinger's equation means?
Yes, I'm aware. No, I'm asking for an example that has been researched.
An equation that from there we get an infinite universe. The Everettian model of quantum theory also invokes a many worlds model in which superposition is the constant. The wave function never collapses. All possible worlds exist simultaneously. That's another model.
Okay, so you're saying some things are not or don't have to be created, right?
Nothing is created.
Nothing is created. Is grass around us created?
No, it's assembled.
It's assembled. So a synonym of assembled is created.
Creation ex nihilo or ex materia? Which one? I disagree with that creation occurs ex nihilo. But I can agree that creation may occur ex materia, but in that we just say it's assemblage of things, right? Grass is the formation of air, water, soil coming together to make grass. There is many ways that we can naturalistically explain the world around us without God.
Right, yeah, but so we can both agree that some certain things are created. Everything around us should be created.
What you have to be careful. Creation ex materia or ex nihilo?
Okay, sure, ex materia.
Okay. Great. Ex materia, which means from pre-existing material. So nothing's created from nothing, right?
Okay.
Okay,
So how
great. Congratulations.
how did the first cell evolve?
There was no first cell.
Oh, there was
But
no
this is a
first
good question. This is a good question. The first life forms form from polypeptides. These are chains of peptides that form from amino acids that exist in the atmosphere. You have ammonia, methane, hydrogen gases coming together with electric energy, creating amino acids, creating nucleobases. You also have asteroids injecting this kind of material to the Earth. In water, right, you have the formation of the first vesicles.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that has to do
These
with
then
the
encapsulate RNA, which can polymerize your clay phosphates. With those nucleobases, it can be polymerized together, and you can create a replicating cell. This is abiogenesis. There's tons of evidence behind it. There's no God behind it.
Okay, so you're saying there was no first cell?
There is a first population of cells, but there is no one single cell that, started everything, right? There's a population, there's a process.
So cells have always been, is that what you're trying to say then?
No, what I'm saying is that there is a incremental evolution, chemical evolution of cells from protocells.
Yeah, and where did the protocells
So again,
come
there
from?
is no one moment where that just like there's no one moment you became, an adult. It wasn't one day, 1 second you became an adult, right? It took
Yeah, we're
time,
comparing humans with
processing.
cells.
So again, there is an evolution of time that created the first cells.
Okay, how did the first cells get created then if there was no...
I just explained to you the process in very simple terms.
You said like subcells? Is that what you said, or
I just
what?
explained to you what a protocell forms, right?
Okay, protocells are still cells. All right, can we agree upon that? Protocells are still cells.
No,
that
they're
were
not cells, sir. They're not replicating.
They're not replicating, but wait, are protocells not cells then?
They're not self-replicating. They can replicate.
Yeah, that's not the question.
Not on their own. They require some other energy system to leech off.
Okay, that's not the question, but they're still cells.
No, they're not cells. They're protocells. There's a difference, right? In the sense that their structure is more primitive.
Okay, and they were not created. Is that what you're trying to say?
They formed through chemical evolution.
Chemical evolution. Where did chemical evolution come?
Chemical evolution is a process. It didn't come from somewhere. Again,
so it can't just come out of thin air, though, can it?
But the ingredients that make up life come from the earth, the air, the water, the soil. That's where all life comes from.
Can we stick to cells, please? Protocells, where do the chemical reaction come from?
Water.
To make protocells. Water.
Water, air, and soil.
So that creates an infinite loop. Water, air, and
what?
And what?
No,
soil?
the ingredients come from water, amino acids, lipids. These are molecules in water that that form protocells.
But they have cells within them.
No, they didn't.
What?
Look, Jordan, you're not equipped for this conversation. If you can't understand what abiogenesis did, do you know what abiogenesis means?
Biogenesis, not necessarily.
Right, which is fine. It's okay if you don't know it. But I would do my research and then come talk to me before you pretend you know what you're talking about.
I'm not pretending. I'm just pointing out the rational opinion that you behold in. You think that energy in space-time has always existed, and I'm like, okay, show me an example where this has been tested, and you're showing me an equation. Again, that's not an example.
You're holding me to what? Give me an example where God was created.
Okay, that's a red herring. Can you answer my question?
Exactly. Then you're also giving me a red herring too, right?
Well, I'll answer you.
It's not relevant to the conversation. Hold on. It's not relevant to the conversation to bring up, how did you test for space-time being infinite? That's not needed, right?
Well, you presented the positive
claims.
You presented the positive claim that, space-time has always existed. And I'm like, okay, can you give a valid example which has been tested? Like, for example, with jet fuel.
You don't need an example that's been tested, right?
You don't need an example. That's blind faith.
All we need are mathematical equations. Like I said, Schrodinger's equation, Everettian equations, which show that the universe could be infinite. That's enough to form a theory.
Could be infinite. Can you give me an example which has been tested on something? For example, you said jet fuel.
Why do we need to test it?
To see if it's authentic or not. Why do we need to test anything in
We
life?
don't need to test if space-time's infinite to suggest it could be infinite.
That would just be blind faith. That would just be shooting in the dark and
blind
hoping it
faith,
lands.
sir. It's based on mathematics.
Mathematics.
Like, for example,
okay, sure.
Right, it's based on mathematics. So there's reasons behind why I believe this space-time could be eternal.
Okay, mathematical equations which have not been tested in real life.
We
That's
don't
the whole
test
point.
mathematical statements are analytical in nature. They're not empirical, right? They're not synthetic. So we don't test for math. I don't test if 1 + 1 is 2. I go, okay, let's test it with in the lab. You can't do that, right? You can't test.
We're not talking about numbers here. We're
Okay,
talking
great.
about the
So
universe.
math is done rationally, conceptually. That's how we form mathematical theories.
Okay, but then again, you're comparing numbers with the universe which can be tested. Things in the universe can be tested. And if you
You're confused. I think you're confused. You keep
I think I'm just pointing out the inconsistency in your argument.
Where's the inconsistency?
The inconsistency is, first you said some things, there are things that are created, and I'm like, okay, can you explain me how the first cell evolved? And you're like, well, it came from water and soil, and I'm like, okay, where did that come from? And then you said chemical reactions, and you see where the issue comes from. It creates an infinite loop of things.
Where's the issue? I don't see the issue.
That creates an infinite loop. It creates an infinite loop, and once there's
what's the infinite loop?
It's an infinite loop in life. You said water is created. Okay, then we're going to go to space-time, and space-time was never created, but then you don't have any examples to show why space-time has never been created, and then you go back in a circle, say, okay, it's just a theory, I don't know if it's true. So why follow a theory that you don't know if it's true or not, and you can't test it?
You're presupposing that there has to be a loop of events, or the time has to elapse.
No, that's what you're saying.
No, I'm sorry, but again, you keep saying that there's a loop or an infinite regression.
Okay,
First of all, that's not a problem. First of all, that's not even a problem, but that's not even what I'm suggesting. Space and time could be infinite without looping, just infinite. And through time, there's cosmic evolution, and that's it.
Okay, what about when black holes erode? What about when black holes end and the universe ends? What happens after that?
Okay, now you're talking about the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, heat death.
I agree. As entropy increases, suddenly the universe becomes very dark and empty. But perhaps, and there's some evidence that entropy might decrease again. Perhaps there's a quantum fluctuation that causes entropy of the universe to decrease again, and that causes another Big Bang. Right? So this is called conformal cyclic cosmology. So again, we have mathematical theories to also suggest that entropy could also decrease again.
Okay, does space-time still exist after the heat?
Yes.
The heat?
Yep, space-time is always there.
Space-time's always there. So then you would assume that another universe would be created after.
Yeah. So there are different fields, right? So you're talking about an inflaton field. That's what creates universe. That's where a universe is created or forms. Now, if you're talking about a Hilbert space, which contains all these inflaton fields, well, then that's the infinite space and time that we're talking about, which has maximal dimensionality.
So then the universe would restart. Is that what you're trying to say?
It wouldn't. Well, it could restart. It also could just go on forever, blank out, and another universe, another part of the Hilbert space emerge.
Okay, then that would suggest parallel universes.
Yeah, there could be parallel universes. There could be all kinds of stuff out there, but probably not God.
Okay, well, I'd say God existing makes more sense than parallel universes, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, what about...
Flat Earth makes more sense to a caveman than a round Earth, but it doesn't make it true, right? So just because something makes sense to you, especially you, it is definitely not good reason to think that you're right.
Yeah, I can use the same argument against you, since we're at this point where
I'm sorry, but my theory is backed by evidence. Yours is backed by a Bible or a story.
Evidence that you cannot show examples for. No, I don't support the Bible. But
evidence in the case of entire fields of research, relativity, quantum mechanics, that you have not learned yet.
Okay, what are your comments on fine-tuning?
What fine-tuning?
The fine-tune theory.
What fine-tuning? I don't know what you're talking about. The universe isn't fine-tuned necessarily.
I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The universe has to be perfectly tuned for it to exist, and for you to assume that the
Where's your
universe
evidence of that?
restarts.
Where's your evidence that the universe had to be tuned? Now, what does it even mean the universe is tuned?
See, I think you disregard theories when it goes against your theory, and that's the problem.
Yeah, so what's the evidence that the universe has to be tuned?
What's the evidence? There's been reports. I mean, it's a theory after all.
I understand that it could be tuned, but what's the evidence that it must be tuned?
I mean, I could show you a report. I could put it in chat. Or like this study. I mean, I didn't create it, and I'm sure you know that I didn't create it. And you know the theory.
Oh, okay.
And I
So,
think you're
so go ahead.
cherry-picking.
What's your source? Bring the source that the universe was tuned.
Okay, sure. Give me a second.
It's tuned for theists to come up and give
Okay.
evidence. Give no evidence. I told you that. That's tuned then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, you know what the theory states, right?
It's not a theory, but go ahead. Let's see it.
Oh, is it not a theory? What is it then?
It's a statement. But go ahead. What's the evidence of fine tuning?
Is a statement not a theory?
Theories aren't just statements; they're explanations. They're mechanisms.
Okay, and so the fine-tuned theory was just I don't know. Let's just guess.
No, I'm asking you for the evidence of fine tuning. You have yet to show it. I doubt you have it.
Okay, if I show you the creator of the evidence and where he presents this theory, is that sufficient?
Give a source showing that the universe is finely tuned.
Okay, if I give you the author of this theory and the book which he published it, is that sufficient evidence?
No.
Yes or no?
I want the article. I want the part where he demonstrates that the universe must be finely tuned.
Okay, yeah. So I could show you his book where he reports this. Sure. Give me a second.
How does he demonstrate? I don't just want a report. A 2-year-old can give a report. I want the demonstration of it.
Oh, now you want the demonstration. But when I ask you the demonstration of theory of relativity and how that supports energy and infinite space-time, you can't show me that. That's cherry-picking.
Yeah, because you can't demonstrate God existing. So that's why the entire notion that I have to give you evidence or demonstrate that the universe could be infinite is ridiculous.
So you're saying just because you can't answer, I don't have to answer you?
Jordan, I'm making a different claim than you. You just told me that the universe is tuned. I never said that the universe must be infinite. I said it could be, if you noticed. It could be. And you were mad about that. You were mad. You were mad that I couldn't, that I keep saying could. See? That's why you were mad, because you wanted me to get me in the corner, but I didn't get in the corner because we don't know if the universe is tuned. We don't know if the universe is infinite, but we have possibilities. But the problem is that your God is less likely because there's no good reason. You have built a very poor theory. Whereas theory is backed by evidence.
Okay. So my theory, just because I can't prove it or show a picture, is somehow better than your theory, which you also can't prove.
Just provide some reason why the universe is tuned. You can say, or you could just say it could be tuned, and I'll agree with you. It could be tuned.
Yeah, it could be tuned.
Okay, great. Now what?
Yeah, now we're in this.
Now what? See, now what? Now where do we go? Right? You need evidence for God to claim that God's real.
Okay, what is your alternative notion then?
Space-time being infinite.
Space-time being infinite. That has no evidence.
That was the entire point of this conversation. You posit
just
God,
went back
I can show you a counterfactual, which doesn't require God. Hence, you have to do more work to demonstrate God is more likely. See?
Okay. You said energy, and it could be space-time could be infinite, but you just a minute ago you said we don't know. So how is your theory better than mine if you don't know either?
I've been consistent this whole time, and I've told you it could be infinite.
Okay, so you don't know.
Nobody knows.
Okay. So we shouldn't trust you.
Just like you don't know if God's real. You pretend you know, but you don't know for sure.
Yeah, that's the whole point of faith. Yeah. Otherwise, if you had a math test and the answer's in the back, then what's the point of the math
Faith
test?
is useless if you're going to question rigorously the world around you. Faith, anybody can have faith. I can have faith that you're wrong. That's why faith is useless.
Faith is useless in certain aspects. When it comes to a necessary existence like God, faith is necessary because that's the whole point of the doctrine.
Faith is only necessary if you have no evidence.
Okay, if faith is useless, then why do you support your claims which you don't know certainly?
I don't need maximal certainty to have some certainty.
But you still need faith, don't you?
No,
you have faith that
I don't need faith. There's something called credence, right? I can have certain degrees of certainty in certain claims. So in some claims, I'm maybe 70% certain. Some are 90, some are 50, some are 20. You see? It's
okay.
binary.
Okay, but your claims have to have faith if you don't have certainty. Can you agree that?
They don't need faith. It's just that the degrees of certainty are lower.
Okay, so you don't need faith, right? You don't need faith to support your claim.
No.
Okay, so then what do you rely on?
Evidence.
Evidence that doesn't fully support your claim. It doesn't verify it.
Evidence that raises the degree of credence in a given proposition. That's how evidence and claims work.
Okay, so what are the percentage that you are right? If you're saying like the it increases, what is the percentage that you're right?
I don't know. I would have to do the math on that, but I would say I'm about 50 and above certain that the universe is infinite.
Okay. The 50%.
Now, can you provide evidence of God?
Okay, 1 second. But that creates faith. You have faith that you're right. That's the whole point.
No, I don't have faith I'm right. I have credence. I have certainty based on.
No, you're just using a different word.
Jordan. There are some claims that have less evidence, and there are some claims that have more evidence than the others. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in the claims that have low evidence, I have lower credence levels in those. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not faith, it's credence.
Okay, so it's not faith, it's credence, right?
Correct. Based on the evidence. Lower, high.
Okay. So can you explain what credence is real quick?
It's the level of certainty you have in a given proposition based on the corresponding evidence or reasoning.
Okay, and faith does not include the evidence.
Faith is the lack of evidence. If you had evidence, you wouldn't need faith.
Okay. So you said there's 50% chance that all this is correct. But then when I asked you to provide like an example for this, where you recorded this in real life, like jet fumes, which they restart, how cells restart, you lack to provide that. So how am I supposed to take you for real?
Jordan, here's an example. George Washington, let's just say George Washington, right? I can't test him right now. Or how about your great-great-great-great-grandma, right? I can't test if you had a great-great-great-grandma empirically. Like touching her, I can't go to her grave. I don't know where her grave is. But based on our biological priors, in other words, you have prior evidence, biologically speaking, that you must have your grandfather. That raises the amount of credence we have in the proposition that you have a great-great-great-grandmother, even though we can't test it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And so does faith require evidence?
No, faith, faith is the lack of evidence in my eyes.
Okay, so if your brother is in the Olympics and he's having a swimming competition, you have faith that he's going to win with the evidence that he showed you that he's talented, he's fast, and he had hard work.
It's not faith, it's credence.
What is that?
Again, I have credence.
Okay, so when people say, I have faith that my brother's going to win, you mean, oh no, you mean credence.
Faith is when your brother's fat, obese, he has no way of winning, and he's going into the Olympics for the first time. And you're like, yeah, you're going to win. That's faith, okay? Faith is no evidence. Jordan. Faith is when your obese, fat brother is trying to race against Michael Phelps. That is faith. That if you think he's going to win, that's faith. Evidence is different, right? Evidence is when you have some good reason to believe that your brother can win, based on the fact that he is a trained swimmer, right? Things like that. That's the difference.
Okay, but faith does require evidence. You don't agree with that?
I just went over this. No, faith is the lack of evidence. Credence contains evidence.
Okay, but is that like a real definition?
That's what I'm going by. You can say faith is evidence, and great, but that doesn't do anything for you. You still don't.
And you're creating your own. You're creating your own criteria. That's the issue, though.
I'm not creating my own criteria, sir. This is the way many philosophers do it.
Okay, what philosophers
do it?
Who?
Philosophers.
Okay, who?
There's all kinds of atheistic philosophers and Christian philosophers who agree with this.
Okay, name one.
Going back to Aristotle. Going back to Aristotle. Oh my
Do you
God.
want to know which philosopher believed in atheism?
No. Shut up, Google.
You can ask him what philosophers believe.
Aristotle, Plato. I can go on at Socrates. They all believed when what I'm telling you. The point is that you have no evidence of God yet. You still haven't brought evidence of God.
Well, my evidence was the contingency argument, which you shut down. And if you shut down, then what's the point of arguing with it?
You said it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shut down and you don't want to hear it. That's just being ignorant.
You done?
Yeah, that's just being ignorant. Yeah, close-minded.
Good day, Jordan.
But yeah.
How's it going, buddy?
Hi.
Hi. All right. So I do believe in God, and I think I have my own experiences and other things that could probably be my own evidence in its own way, because that's where evidence comes from, is experience. But this is the first time I've seen your channel. What is your kind of beliefs? Have you always been an atheist, or have you grown up in like a Christian household and blah, blah, blah? What's your story?
I grew up Christian, but I left it when I was 20.
Okay. How old are you now? And that really matters. All right. Yeah, I grew up in a Christian household too. I would still consider myself a believer in God, but I don't really call myself a Christian because I think there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make sense to me. I think that people like to keep twisting and making their own, I guess you could say, kind of reinventing the wheel of something that already exists, if that makes sense. So this is my idea of like what God really is. People like in the Bible who are like Noah, Moses, the ones back in the Old Testament, they never called themselves Christians or anything like that, but they believed in God. Now, do you think that makes more sense to believe in something than just to call yourself, I am like a label to like a, you could use the word cult if you want.
Do you have any evidence that God's real?
All right, so you want to hear. Okay. So have you had any spiritual experiences? All right, I have. I've had a few weird ones. In 1 week, I saw 2 weird things. I was about like 11 years old at the time, but I've seen other things. It's like one of the first memories I've had with it. But me and my brother shared a bedroom together, and I woke up at like, hey buddy, it happens. You grew up in the fucking country and you don't have a lot of money. So anyway, shared a bedroom. I woke up at like, not the same bed, don't worry. We had a split bedroom. So I woke up and I saw something at my brother's bed. I know it's going to sound crazy, but I thought I saw an angel. And my dad had a conversation with me a few days prior saying that he, when he was a kid, saw his guardian angel, as he puts it. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't really know what to say when he told me that. But I woke up really late in the night, and this thing, whatever it was really bright. Kind of almost, not to say it looks like what it does, or, sorry, not to say what it looks like in the description, kind of like the cartoonish of the
wings and blah, 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 but it was very bright. It kind of looked humanoid, and it told me to come over. And it was physical, like you could touch it. And I sat on its knee for probably like 30 minutes. We talked, and the only thing I remember that it told me I was going to see some weird shit in life. Really weird things. I know you're going to be like, all right, that might be crazy, but I'll tell you what I saw after. And I went to bed, and the next few days, I woke up again around the same time, and this time I saw the Grim Reaper. I swear to God. And they're going to tell me, like, oh, I swear to God, but yeah, I swear to God.
Let me stop you here.
Certainly.
Look, I'm not here to discount your experiences. I agree that you probably had these experiences. The problem is
this story's almost over, so let me quickly say this.
What you have described. Hold on.
All right, sir.
From what you've described,
yeah,
it aligns almost perfectly with what sleep paralysis would be. You said it. Your father had it. Guess what? Sleep paralysis runs in the family. It's genetic. Secondly, you also said that you were in your bedroom. You're likely sleeping. And you're half awake, half asleep. This aligns precisely with sleep paralysis. So it's
I agree.
This is what that was, and not you were sitting on the lap of an angel.
If you let me finish the story, it'll make more sense. So after I saw the Grim Reaper, I know. So if you grew up in a Christian household, did anybody tell you to ever rebuke in the name of Jesus?
No.
So I'm working at the same time. I'm baking and shit. Got my own business. Anyway, did anybody, if you saw like a demon or something, did anybody tell you to rebuke in the name of Jesus? Have you ever saw it? Just saying. Just curious.
No.
All right. So my family, or in this case, my mom told me to do that. And the Grim Reaper was standing over my brother's bed and petting him like he was a fucking dog. It was really disturbing. And when I said that to this thing, it looked like the Grim Reaper. Like I swear it had fucking like the robe. It had red eyes. It had like that freaking whatever you want to call it. It was holding something that was pretty scary. And when I said that, it left the room, and my brother woke up the next morning, and he told me that he had a horrible dream. And I was like, "What was it?" He's like, "The Grim Reaper was chasing me in the forest last night." And I'm like, "Well, I saw the Grim Reaper standing over your bed last night, and he went as white as a ghost, and he started like crying." And I swear to God, I saw that shit.
Okay. Take a breath. Just relax here.
Yeah, I know. It's just
your brother also likely has sleep paralysis too. Okay, so let's just.
So how would our dreams be connected then?
The Grim Reaper. I think most people who hear the word Grim Reaper, they have an idea of what it looks like. Because of movies and the media, it's very common to dream or think of these things. That seems like it's more likely that that's the case rather than that you guys are having this kind of shared experience. But furthermore, we have no way of verifying what you saw, unfortunately. So even if you're right, how could you show this to be true? You can't.
Oh, exactly. I know you gotta. I hate to use the word. You gotta take my word for it.
Thirdly, maybe instead of going to, oh, this means God's real, maybe this means that there's something we don't understand about the universe.
I also have some other weird stories I can tell you.
Before we come up to all these conclusions, let's not pretend that we have the answers. Let's look at what the evidence leads us, right? And the evidence leads us to, you got a sleep paralysis problem in the family.
Well, I've had some pretty weird things that have happened in my life that have been wide awake. Like, I'm telling you, I can tell you some other weird stories.
Oh, Hayden, next time you're in the bedroom with your brother, record it.
This is like 15 years ago, buddy. I'm like,
okay, well, next time you're with your brother, get a camera, okay? One of them Ring cameras, all right?
All right, so what's your...
All right, folks, I think that's all for tonight.